was right or accountable to those that don't know. Paul made it plain to us in Romans. He said, listen, he said, well, before the Lord came, he said, I lived. He said, in other words, but when the Lord came, I reviled and I died. In other words, he said, the Lord was a schoolmaster. It put me in check. It told me I'd done wrong. And when I didn't know, he said, and when I done wrong, I paid the price for doing wrong. Don't you know it's the job of the remnant to carry on the teaching of the founder. The problem is, don't you know, when you have a father, the old folks, and those that came up in the South know what I'm talking about. In the South, the parents that had 6 and 7 headed kids, or even 13, 14, they look for the first 2 to help put the rest in line. And don't you know, when they didn't, but they trained them and they showed them. Now, if things are out of line, if Jane or Joe didn't do what they're supposed to do, you're going to get your butt whipped because I taught you better and still in you. Don't you know a lot of you that know what's right? God instilled in you to put and check things in the house of God when folks don't want to do. See, we have too many passive, too many timid folk afraid to speak up. But again, it goes back to the Holy Ghost. Don't you know, your natural nature may be timid and shy. But when the Holy Ghost, I often bring up this point and how I bring illustration, how if you think of an alcoholic, a person that never drunk before, they're so meek and mild, they have a Jekyll and Hyde personality. A meek and mild person, they just meek and mild. But as soon as they get a little fire water or liquor up their belt, their whole personality changes. They become wild, they become mean, they become vicious, because that's their nature. Don't you know when the Holy Ghost comes, he gives you boldness. You're not afraid to say what you got. Whether or not folks don't want to hear you or not. See, but the problem is today, the old folks had a saying. They said you have a little crow in your craw, or a little gristle. The problem is we ain't got no gristle in the church. We got jellyback folks in the church who willing to bow and bend and jiggle in the house of God. Let me tell you something. When the Holy Ghost can't come, he's going to give you boldness to stand up